May I take this opportunity to invite the officials from GHRS, the Ministry of Public Administration, and the Ministry of Finance Investment Division to introduce themselves in that order. So first, members and officials of the GHRS, you may introduce yourselves.
Good morning, Chair. My name is Avalon Huggins, and Chairman of the GHRS. To my left is Mr. Geoffrey Lewis. He is the Vice President of Corporate Planning and Deputy CEO. To my right is Mr. Kari Murray. He is the Vice President of Human Capital Management. At the second row to the far left is Mr. Cagney Casimir, Director, Ms. Shariza Khan, Director, and Ms. Natasha Sams, Accountant at the GHRS. The three members introduced, myself, Director Casimir, and Director Khan, represent the full complement of the board. Thank you.
Morning, Chair. Lydia Jacobs, Permanent Secretary, Acting.
Good morning, Chair. Angela Lum Joseph, Acting Director, Public Management, Strategic Services Division.
Good morning. My name is Wade Mark. I'm the chairman of this committee. At this point in time, I'll call on the chairman and the vice chairman, whichever one would want to submit a brief statement to this committee so we can get at the background of the company GHRS.
Thank you again, Chair. The GHRS was established by Cabinet Minute in 2006 as a state-owned limited liability company operating under the aegis of the Ministry of Public Administration. The company was mandated to operate within the public sector to develop and execute an international recruitment strategy, provide strategic and technical human resource services, and address human capital development needs to support public sector transformation. The genesis of the GHRS was well intended, and the mandate to facilitate the enhancement of the human resource capacity within the public service remains relevant today. The business and economic environments, however, have since evolved, and the GHRS at this point must remain relevant to its stakeholders and its business environment in order to fulfill the value proposition of economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. And this, too, is in light of current economic adjustments. The GHRS has the internal capacity to deliver on this mandate. The focus, therefore, is on the alignment of the strategy to demonstrate this by delivering value-added services. The representatives here today of the GHRS welcome this opportunity to engage in this discourse with this committee regarding the operations of the entity and to receive feedback and any recommendations moving forward. The board present today was installed in March 2016. It was installed, in February 2016, and we convened the first meeting in March 2016, and to date we have held 3 board meetings. It is the prerogative of the board to understand the operations of the GHRS and review its existing strategic plan to ensure that all efforts and action plans are aligned with achieving the mandate in light of economic adjustments, as well as to enhance the public sector human resource needs. I must inform the committee that as at the 1st of May 2016, the position of CEO at the GHRS is vacant. The executive management team represented today, Mr. Lewis and Mr. Murray, have oversight for the operations of the GHRS and shall expound on queries regarding operations coming from your committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman of the GHRS. Could you, if I may begin, may I ask, what time frame do you anticipate that the post of Chief Executive Officer will be filled? And in this particular regard, has advertisements been issued so far to begin the recruitment process or the searching for a new CEO for the GHRS?
Advertisements have not yet been posted. However, the board has initiated the recruitment process, which is consistent with the internal process for executive recruitment, and that entails sourcing of a suitable firm, external party, to conduct this recruitment exercise. That is the current status, Chair.
Oh, thank you. May I ask the Acting Permanent Secretary of Ministry of Public Administration? You know, it is said that an accounting officer shall be responsible for ensuring that the financial business of the state for which he or she is responsible is properly conducted, and that public funds entrusted to his or her care are properly safeguarded and are applied only to the purposes intended by Parliament. How does the Permanent Secretary, as the accounting officer, ensure accountability and transparency in performing your role and responsibility in monitoring this organization to first of all ensure that the proper system of accounting as prescribed by the Treasury is established and maintained? 2, exercise supervision over the receipt of public revenue. And finally, make proper provision for the safekeeping of public money. Madam Permanent Secretary.
Yes, Chair. In terms of systems of accounting and oversight, there are a number of channels through which we oversee the responsibilities there. First of all, there are requirements that GHRS will submit board minutes. There are financial statements. There's their strategic plan, and there are targets in the strategic plan. So these are monitored through the Strategic Services Division. There is a monitoring element there. And so they supervise as well. We also take the opportunity, especially at budget time, we review the targets. We go back into the previous year times and look at what has been achieved, because this also impacts the subvention that they will receive, whether they will receive releases, as it were, for their subventions. And so we also look at how they keep in tune with the Manual for State Enterprises. There are certain protocols in there as well, which they have to look at, and we will examine those as they present their statements, some quarterly, some monthly, and taking all into consideration. Those are some of the mechanisms.
A review, for example, of the estimates of recurrent expenditure shows an allocation of approximately $62.9 million over the 7-year period of review, that is 2010 to 2016, 2015, 2016, that is, as it relates to this particular organization. How were the funds used, that is the $62.9 million, still ongoing in terms of 2016. How were these funds used to assist with the recruitment of national and non-national professionals from abroad to fill the gaps that exist in the public service? That's the first question. Yeah. Could you answer that one? How that expenditure for the period that I've outlined, 2010 to 2016, $62.9 million. How were those funds used in helping the organization recruit nationals as well as non-nationals, professionals that is, from abroad to fill the gaps in the public service?
Chair, GHRS services, ministries and departments as requested, so that ministries and departments will submit their HR needs, and so over the period they will facilitate those requests. There are costs associated with the ministry's requests, and so the services are charged by GHRS, and that is the basis upon which most of their funds will be utilized in terms of the specific mandate of recruitment and assisting in the provision of talent for the different agencies.
You want to share with this committee how these services are charged by, like for instance, give us an example, because we are a bit ignorant in terms of how this is conducted. Yes, we'll appreciate that very much. If they can walk us through the process of recruitment and how services are charged when professionals, both nationals as well as non-nationals who are located abroad, when they are recruited.
Okay, the process would involve, as the Permanent Secretary acting indicated, a request coming from a ministry. We would then advertise that position, 1, on our website, 2, on CaribbeanJobs.com, and if there is a request by the ministry, we would also place that ad in the newspaper. We also provide on a weekly basis those ads to our missions and consulates abroad via email. Once that is done, we would, based on the agreement we have with the ministry, decide if we take the recruitment further besides just advertising. It may also involve doing assessments for the ministry in terms of, for example, setting up of recruitment centers. It may also involve interviewing for the position. All these costs are added together, and we charge the ministry on that basis. What we really don't charge the ministry is for other indirect services. But that is the process. We advertise locally and internationally. We try to do assessments. We try to do interviews. And then we recommend persons to the ministry on that basis.
Give us a concrete example of ex-ministry requests that you recruit for them. 3 professionals. Titles are given, and they want you to recruit those persons, interview those persons, and have those persons and so on sent to their ministry. What would be the final cost to the ministry that you would charge, or you would at least ask for in terms of payments? What would be your fees in that concrete sense?
Okay, let me ask our VP Human Capital Management to deal with that specific question in terms of the cost for that service, please.
Thank you.
Good day, Chair. In response to your question, it depends really on if they take all our services or not. We are very flexible in terms of what we offer our clients, especially in terms of recruitment. So while we do the entire process from advertising positions to interviewing and giving reports, they may take the whole process or the piece of it. If, to use an example, let's say a project management professional position, and they're asking to fill that position, we have base packages for that particular position, which would include the interviews, shortlisting, and also online advertising. And for that position, maybe, let's say, $7,000 for that flat position. If they want to do assessments, both technical and behavioral, then these will be additional costs involved as well. Because, of course, for the psychometric assessments, we will have to provide these things from our providers internationally. So overall, something like that may cost, with inclusive of VAT, maybe around $10,000 overall, on a very estimated figure.
Through you, Chair. It is noted that as of November 2013, you all would have only provided services to approximately 39% of government agencies and 5% of public sector agencies. Could you, indicate to the committee what are the reasons for this and what impact this would have had on your overall performance?
Thank you, Member. I think at that point in time, the approach to GHRS in terms of recruitment would have been our main focus. Since that time, however, we have doubled our efforts in terms of not only recruitment, but other areas of HR function as well. So while we look at achieving our mandate of enhancing HR capacity, recruitment is one facet of that mandate. So over the period, we have actually increased in the last 3 to 4 years, doubled the amount of clients we've worked with. I think in the last financial year, we had 49 clients that we would have engaged with. Also during that period, we have increased our retention rate of clients. So more clients are doing more work with us. Additionally, we have expanded not just the scope of our operations in terms of more clients, but also more types of work per client in terms of the portfolio. So besides doing recruitment for them, we also do training in terms of how to do their own recruitment, how to do competency-based interviewing, how to develop their own program systems and internally as well. So that is some of the work we've done over the last 3 years, especially in terms of the recruitment and getting a number of clients.
In light of this statistic that has just been demonstrated by my colleague, 39% market share, so to speak, and the fact that you are teaching entities to do it for themselves, you are doing yourself out of business, isn't it? So I want to ask that question, and then I want to hark back to the mandate. I'm sure no one present might have been here in 2006, at least with the company. But from our reading and from your reading, the question I ask for elucidation is whether you really think that the mandate, I want you to demonstrate to us how relevant this entity and what it does is today. Given the statistics we've just heard, 39%, given the fact that you're teaching other people to do it yourself, and the fact that the large majority of the public sector and state agencies have not made use of your service historically, how do you or can you demonstrate its relevance in 2016? Thank you.
I'll take a stab at that. In addition to, you quite rightly said, during the period, we were at about 39% market share. The company really did not go out and make an effort to get business. We actually have changed that. We have done research we have asked our clients what they need. We now have a direct marketing plan in place, and we monitor our activities on a weekly basis in terms of the number of visits we make to clients, the number of projects we have in place. When you speak about us teaching our clients to fish, that is imparting knowledge with them or sharing with them. We see that as positive for not only ourselves but for the country. In addition to which, it leaves us with opportunities to look for other business opportunities.
I'm not criticizing it. I think it's good,
No,
but it has an impact on your potential for market share in the future, doesn't it?
Yes, but you see that recruiting, for example, is just one aspect of what we do. We have other aspects of our business that we are focusing on, and as the economy and as things change, we are also changing.
What are these other things that you're focusing on?
We do a lot more in terms of training, for example. We have introduced about 15 new workshops that we take to our clients. We are involved in job evaluation exercises with our clients. We are involved with policy writing, implementation of other HR services, and we see these as opportunities for the company to grow and to be relevant and not just be a supplier or a full recruitment agency.
And just for clarity,
Sure.
for those who listen to us this morning, state agencies are not obliged to make use of your service.
But that is correct. We are obliged to use only the public service.
But the public service is not obliged to make use of your service. So you're in a bit of a predicament, isn't it?
That is correct.
I have been leading a government department, a ministry for the past 8 months. And personally, I have not encountered your company in the atmosphere. I don't know if the permanent secretary has. I don't know what the other arrangements are. But from my own perspective, in 8 months, I have not felt your presence. We are strangers. How do you explain that?
I can tell you that we make contact, and we have had contact with your ministry during that period of time. If you want a name, I'm sure. I'm sure.
Not so intimately. I don't care for that.
But what we have done is we have actually identified all ministries, all state enterprises, all public companies, state companies, sorry, and we have divided those companies into the ones that we have done business with in the recent past, those that we have done business with last year, those that we have not done business with at all. And we go around on a continuous basis trying to not just explain what GHRS is about, but to also try and get from our clients what are their HR specific needs. So I can assure you that we have made contact with your ministry.
I have no doubts. I've seen the records here that
yes,
we charged you $16,000 to assist in moving some place. I've noticed that from the records. But okay, I'll pass on to someone else. I'll proceed on this line.
Tim Gopi Singh.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. Good morning and welcome to all of you. When we look at the Cabinet Note of 2006 and your mandate, which the new chairperson, the new chairman has recently spoken about, which will basically facilitate the enhancement of the human resource capacity in the public service of Trinidad and Tobago. We have the acting permanent secretary in the Ministry of Public Administration, and GHRS, the client is the Ministry of Public Administration. Now, from your strategic goals strategic plan that you have given us, on page 8 of it, you gave some statistics of the public service in 2010. And you said the table in 2010, the public service was estimated to have 51,808 positions, of which 16,328 are contract positions, with 5,366 remaining vacant, that's contract. And in the civil service establishment, the number of positions from the 51,000 was 35,480, and the number filled was 27,302, and the number of vacant positions in the public service in 2010 was 8,654. And in contract, the Ministry of Public Administration and most ministries, the Public Service Commission fills the vacancies in various ministries in the public service. Is there, Permanent Secretary, is there any linkage, since there are so many vacancies in the public service, does the Ministry of Public Administration take special effort to ask GHRS to assist them, or do you speak with the Public Service Commission to ask them, how do we expedite the filling of these 8,600 vacancies in the civil service establishment and in contract? What would be the relationship of the Ministry of Public Administration, the Public Service Commission, and GHRS to help in filling these positions on a relatively quick basis? Is there any plan that the Ministry of Public Administration works with GHRS, or do you work with the Public Service Commission to see how quickly you could fill these positions? And my understanding is at the end of 2015, there are probably about 10,000 vacancies. So more vacancies are increasing all the time. And if GHRS is supposed to be helping the Ministry of Public Administration, what would be the nexus and how do you interact?
Vice Chair, with respect to vacancies, the Service Commission's department will have full autonomy for dealing with the vacancies in ministries and departments. There are vacancies which a ministry or department may not require that they be filled. They are outdated in some cases. And so that skill set has moved on while the post has remained, and so those vacancies will not be filled, okay? Pending job reevaluation and things like that, and generally a reclassification. And in most of those instances, you will find the contract portfolio coming in. So that is why sometimes you may have a contract position. So with respect to vacancies, as public admin, we would be liaising with the Service Commission's department with respect to vacancies. And the Service Commission's department will determine the best mechanism for filling those vacancies. Okay? Most of the vacancies in the Public Service Commission, they will advertise vacancies, as the case may be, and you will see them from time to time in the daily newspapers, but their remit really, they will deal with those vacancies. Public service vacancies. With respect to contract, however, that drills down vacancies.
So,
Can I just finish? And
oh,
then-
sorry, yes.
I'll
Sorry.
Appreciate it. Then, don't all ministries, in terms of the HR aspects and the management of the HR aspects, don't they coordinate with the Ministry of Public Administration and indicate their human resource position, whether they need staff and how much they need? And aren't you the coordinating ministry to determine the HR issues across a number of ministries? And if your various ministries give you some information that these positions are unfilled, we need help, do you take it as a responsibility to liaise with Public Service Commission or to ask GHRS or any one of these agencies to help you fill these positions?
What we'll do in that case, in terms of the responsibility, any ministry seeking assistance, we will surely be available to liaise with the Commission and to point them in the right direction in terms of if they need assistance in their HR, in terms of recruitment. That will be our job. One of the other things is to ensure through the Public Service Academy that they have some capacity to do some of these things. So there are programs that are offered. With respect to the structure of the ministry, the Public Management Consulting Division, which falls under Public Admin and Communications, they will deal with your overall structure in determining what is your full capacity, so how many positions you will have in terms of each category. You would have made a submission, and they will deal with it scientifically and submit a note, which will eventually go to Cabinet for the structure.
Right, yeah. Is it a particular ministry's responsibility to liaise individually with the Public Service Commission, or they have to come through the PMCD to indicate their vacancies and the amount of contract positions, which is under the Ministry of Public Administration? Can they go directly, a permanent secretary can go directly to the Public Service Commission saying that these are our vacancies, or they have to come through PMCD, and for PMCD under the Ministry of Public Administration to then determine how they move to fill these positions?
They approach the Commission that these positions are relevant positions. They can approach the Commission directly for the
All right.
public service position.
Last question. Do you have any idea what's the situation now in terms of vacancies as of 2015 or the latest one you have? I know that you're now acting. In terms of contract positions vacant and in terms of public service establishment positions vacant. What's your latest figure on that?
I can't give you that right away, but I know we are collating current data for that, all the vacancies.
From your memory, what would be the last type of figure? What we're looking at?
Vice Chair can't give you that figure.
My figure from being around in the government, so that there were close to about 10,000 vacancies in the public service establishment and about 6,000 contract positions. And that is a very untidy and unhealthy situation for efficiency and effectiveness for any ministry to have, or any government, which this administration has to inherit, to work with. And then the PMCD is very slow in the process of determining the overall fit of an organization, of a ministry. And I see that as very untidy and unhealthy. And so I see the role for GHRS to come in and give some assistance in this, and possibly they have been underutilized in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam PS, are we to take it that the work of the GHRS does not have any impact on the Public Service Commission in respect of filling vacancies in the establishment?
Sorry. The GHRS mainly functions with the contract establishment, as far as I am aware, so that they really, I cannot answer for the commission if the commission has used them, but I know that they function in ministries and departments for the business of contract recruitment.
Mr. Lewis, can you tell us of the ministries you are aware of that utilize the services of GHRS? If you can't call all of them, a percentage.
Allow me to ask Mr. Murray because he leads that division. So I'll ask him to take that question, please. That's okay with you.
Okay, thank you for your question, member. At this point, I can give an estimate of ministries who have used us over the years. I'd say at this point, maybe about 20% of ministries overall. Bear in mind, of course, that ministries have changed and been amalgamated and expanded over time as well.
And what would you say is the reason for that, in my view, low percentage of ministries that utilize services of GHRS?
Okay, I would say that, as Mr. Lewis said earlier, up to 3 years ago, we were fairly reactive in terms of how we were engaged by our clients. So therefore, our penetration rate at that point in time was very low. Since then, however, we have increased through our direct marketing plan, through our going forward to our clients, being very proactive in terms of how we promote our services, and that has, since then, increased that figure substantially.
So the substantial increase you're speaking about, what would you say now would be the percentage of ministries that utilize the services of GHRS?
Of the current complementary ministries, I would say maybe about 15% of the current complement.
50?
15.
15?
Which would have been increased maybe from the, let's say, 5% 3 years ago.
So that this marketing plan, how long has this been enforced?
Or approximately 2 years.
Okay, you need to help me here, because the mandate of the GHRS, as I read in your strategic plan and the cabinet note, it is to enhance the human resource capacity in the public service. And therefore, I would imagine that there would be some responsibility on the part of the GHRS to have a proper outreach program that would make ministries aware of the services offered and therefore have an aggressive marketing strategy to bring these ministries and agencies of the government on board. What then if after 2 years of a marketing strategy, why then have the GHRS not been able to attract these ministries as clients?
Just allow me to clear up one issue, please. That percentage that Mr. Murray is giving would be in probably last year. We have, over the years of the existence of GHRS, worked for, I would think, about 80% or even more percent of the ministries. Some ministries continue to use us. Some ministries haven't used us in the recent past. And that's why I said earlier, we have made an effort to go out again and try to get those ministries to once again use us. So saying that it is only 5% or 15% is not accurate. We have actually done work for at least, I would think, 80% of the ministries that exist. Well, I'm saying that he would have given a figure that would have been last year, very recent. But I'm saying, I'm just adding information that over the years, that figure is not 5%, I can assure you.
Mainly ministries and agencies. Yes, government agencies and ministries, headquartered in Port of Spain, asking, these ministries, your clients, ministries and agencies, the majority of your clients, where's that based? Where are they based?
Throughout Trinidad and Tobago, we have done work for the Tobago House of Assembly. We have done work for the Superior Regional Authority. We have done work throughout Trinidad and Tobago.
The majority of your clients, Mr. Lewis, the majority of the clients of the GHRS, where are they based?
Port of Spain, okay.
Port of Spain. When did the GHRS take the decision to move to Shoguanas as the headquarters?
That decision was taken in maybe about 2010, 2011.
So if the majority of your client base is in Port of Spain, how then in the plan does it state that the move to Shoguanas is a strategic move to centralize the operations? How do you connect that?
All right, the operations in Maraval, where we were before, was the square footage of the property to start with was just about 4,500 square feet. When an audit was done in 2010, it was proved to be totally useless in terms of being what we needed to do to grow the company. We moved to Central for a couple of reasons. One, we were not able to afford properties in Port of Spain. We got opportunities in Central at a much cheaper price. When we say we moved from $45,000 a month for $45,000 a month plus VAT for a 4,500 square foot property. And we moved to Shoguanas and got close to 10,000 square feet for about 100 or less than 100 plus VAT.
Less than what?
We have, sorry?
Less than 100,000
Yes.
per month,
Per month.
but more than 45,000.
Yes.
Yes.
But we are closer to...
I'm no closer to understanding what you just said, though.
Okay.
Help me.
We operate...
Concentrate on responding to Mr. Foster first, and then you'll come back to Mr. Hines, because you're going two places, and I know
Sure.
you're a bit confused. So concentrate on Mr. Foster Cummings,
Yeah.
and then you'll revert to Mr. Hines, please.
And again, we moved from Maraval to Shoguanas because of availability cost. We find ourselves much closer, not only to the we may not be close to the ministries, but we are closer to our what we call our customers, which are persons coming in for interviews, persons using the services of GHRS. As I said, Port of Spain, getting property in Port of Spain was extremely difficult when we came into the office in 2013.
Foster, just press.
The rental now,
We pay just about $100,000, or just under $100,000.
and the GHRS could not find property within Port of Spain or its precincts for $100,000 a month?
We tried. I was personally involved in that. We tried to get properties at that price. Well, with the square footage that we were looking for over 9,000 square feet. That was actually impossible because we engaged, I believe, 3 different real estate agencies in that search with us.
I have a great difficulty, I must say, reconciling in my mind how an agency that is set up to treat with providing this type of support for the public service and has as its main clients ministries of government, which are most of them headquartered in Port of Spain, saying in a strategic plan that it has centralized its operations in Shoguanas when its client base is in Port of Spain. I can't connect that because your major client base would be the ministries and agencies of government, most of which are headquartered in Port of Spain, and therefore I have a great difficulty. reconciling that.
Just as an additive and in the process, more than double the rent. It's hard to understand. I share the sentiment of my friend. Now listen to this quotation that I picked up on page 6 of your strategic plan. Against the background of what you've just explained to the great difficulty of Senator Cummins and my good self, at the top of page 6, you told us, it is noted that the GHRS made a total of $4.8 million in profit from operations for fiscal year 27 to 9 months of 2014. So that's roughly a 7-year period, including what you describe as a dramatic increase in 2013 to $1.4 million. You described it as dramatic. You just told us you're paying $100,000 a month rent. So 1.4 million in profit is dramatic, and you spend 1.2 in rent. But let me continue. Since 2009, GHRS has been able to cover the cost of sales, profit from operations by segment, including outfitting and outsourcing, is shown in chart 2. It is noted that GHRS is still dependent on government subvention in order to meet its liabilities. During the period of fiscal 2007 and fiscal 2013, GHRS received $59 million in subvention payments, of which you utilized only $43.4 million. Now that statement, against the fact that you are only able to roughly get the attention of 39% of government agencies, it really it raises some, and that your focus is largely on contract employment. And as I indicated a while ago, heading the Ministry of Works and Transport, I've not felt your presence in the atmosphere. It is very, I still find it hard to understand the impact of the GHRS in the scheme of things. It appears, quite frankly, pretty dismal. What is your response to that?
In terms of the profit, it is poor. But it's the way the company is set up. The company receives subvention to run its administrative, to take care of its administrative expenses. All the cost of doing business in terms of our training programs, our recruitment, all these things cover their own cost. We've realized that, yes, we working on recruitment alone gives us very little of profit, let's call it profit. But we have realized that by doing other types of HR business, it allows GHRS to earn more income. Does that?
Yeah.
Sure.
May I ask, whilst Mr. Hines is reflecting and mulling, may I ask Mr. Lewis,
Sure.
if you can help us in understanding and appreciating the numbers. For example, could you assist us in letting us assist us in understanding the number of recruits on a contractual basis in the public sector, inclusive of ministries and other agencies, that the organization has provided to ministries over the period of its existence. For example, from the period 2008 to the end of 2015, how many contract workers were you able to provide to government ministries upon request? Professionals, non-professional, clerical, between the period 2008 to the end of 2015.
11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. We have, in terms of positions recommended for filling, in 2011, 12, 440, in 13, 292, in 13, 14, 446, and in 14, 15, 759. In addition to which, we also work with ministries for a temporary relief for secretarial services, clerical and secretarial services. And that in the year 2015 was 306 positions for 17 ministries. Yes, yes. We would have done our recruitment, our interviews, and we would have recommended these persons to the ministries. We can't, you know.
That was just recommendation, but not necessarily being fulfilled.
Yes, that is correct. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. A part of your mandate, as prescribed in the Cabinet Note of 2006, I guess the new board would have probably seen it as well, is to establish headhunting databases of Trinidad and Tobago. From the experience of two of your colleagues, Mr. Murray and Mr. Lewis, who might have been there for a little while now, have you an appreciation of the skill set that are needed in Trinidad and Tobago for its continued development? And what is the area that people are seeking employment with all these university graduates now coming out, some with a double degree, and unable to find employment? Have you been able to establish what the job market is like in Trinidad and Tobago, being a human resource company, supporting the transformation of the public service through value-added recruiting and human resource solutions, which is your mission? You must have an appreciation of where we are as a country in terms of, if you've been in existence for 10 years now, how can you help the government with any information that you should have been seeking to appreciate at a national level?
Yes. Okay. Thank you for the question, Vice Chair. I would say we have done analysis, especially of our database, to see where applicants are looking for, what type of jobs looking for as well. So we've analyzed the database in terms of entry-level positions, professional positions, management positions. And we've seen from there the percentages of persons applying for different types of jobs. As well, when we go to our community outreach programs, our corporate responsibility programs, we get an idea from those persons there what type of jobs they're looking for as well. So we go in different communities for Trinidad and Tobago, and persons come to our booth and talk to us, and we get information in terms of where are the needs, where the vacancy is looking for, what are the qualifications. So
what you have come up with? Have you been able to crystallize it in your minds as to the macro picture rather than just the micro picture, people coming into you? Have you as an organization sought in your research departments, or have you been doing any research since you are a government human resource management agency filled with the responsibility of transformation of the public service, which is governmental, which is national in scope? Have you as an organization gone out there to do your research to find out what are the needs of the state and what type of professionals and other technical people existing at a national level without jobs and so on, wanting jobs? Have you been proactive or just sitting and just waiting for information to come to you rather than you being out there looking at the wider picture and helping the Ministry of Public Administration, other ministries as well?
Okay. I would say that in the last 2 to 3 years, we've been very much more proactive in terms of gathering that information. So it for us is twofold. So we go to our clients, ministries, departments, state enterprises, municipal corporations, determine what their needs are as well. So besides when you recruitment needs, we look at what their needs are in terms of other human resource interventions. Do we need performance management programs? Do we need to have policy developed? Do we need to re-engineer processes? So we look at those needs from that aspect. Also, when we look at our relations with the Ministry of Labour, we're trying to develop that relationship with the Ministry of Labour to determine from their side as well, what do they see as the overall needs for the country in terms of labour and manpower planning. So that's something we're also currently engaged in.
You have any figures, any information that you could give to the committee or to a national level, people who are looking on? What's the state in Trinidad and Tobago now? From what you said, you did your work, you did some work on it.
So we're currently looking at the work, but I can say I don't have exact figures at this point in time, Vice Chair. But I can see that based upon especially current economic climate, we're seeing greater numbers, especially in terms of the low entry and mid-level professional figures as well. Those persons who have been displaced in the current climate are looking for jobs. So especially in certain sectors, not just overall, but especially in technical sectors as well, we're seeing a large increase in persons looking for employment.
And that's, Mr. Murray, with due respect, that is amorphous. Your statement is amorphous. I'm trying to help you focus. You tell me about technical and low entry level and so on. But where? In what area? There are many hundreds of occupational standards across Trinidad and Tobago. Are you aware of that as a human resource management team, and you are the human capital management vice president? Can you tell us where the country is poised now in terms of what are its needs and where there is oversupply, so that a government could determine in terms of how they manage their scholarships, where we need the human capital development? You're the person in charge in GHRS on that. But you're not able to provide any information for us and at a national level.
Yes, Vice Chair, I take your point, and I would say that we are currently working with some of agencies to determine that information.
How long you have been there, Mr. Murray?
3 years.
3 years. And Mr. Lewis?
3 years also.
3 years is a long time to be able to get that type of information that you need to help the government and the public service with. So I think something is lacking somewhere. Thank you.
I'll recognize Mrs. Coburn and then Mr. Hines
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
and then Mr. Foster.
Could you tell this committee what drives the performance of GHRS? Clearly, it seems not to be profit. Is it enhancing the HR capacity of the public service and sticking to this mandate? What actually drives your performance? Or is it the fact that you are provided with a government subvention, which comes irrespective of what happens? What actually drives the performance of GHRS?
What drives GHRS is our willingness and our ability to serve our clients. Our strategic plan, which was developed for the period 2014 to 2017, directs this, and through the activities of the board and our day-to-day activities, we are basically mandated to follow certain actions. We have actions year by year. This is the second year of our 3-year plan. We, on a weekly basis, or I won't say on a week, let's say twice per month, go through the action plans that are focused on delivery of service to our clients. We have targets for new business. We have targets for new products and services in terms of trainings and supply. We we continue to improve by asking our clients, what can we do differently? How is the service? And using that to improve in terms of our quality. So from our strategic plan right down to even our KPIs, they're all in line with our vision and mission for the company. We are not just waiting and hoping that we get subvention. Actually, one of our key objectives is to increase revenue and reduce our need for subvention.
Okay, Mr. Lewis, so could you share with this committee what are some of your major goals and objectives in that strategic plan, and whether you have achieved what is should have been achieved at this time based on your timelines in your strategic plan?
Yes, Mr. Lewis?
Yeah, in terms of expanding market share, we have done that. We have, as Mr. Murray said, we have increased in that percentage. We have been able to grow, although it is small, our revenues have increased, and we are expecting to have another small increase in fiscal 2016. In terms of cost management, we consider that we are doing an excellent job in terms of keeping our expenditure to a reasonable figure. We have actually, in terms of fiscal 2016, when the government requested a 7% reduction in expenditure, we were able to find a little more than that, about 14%, and offer that to the ministry. In terms of building capacity and institutional strengthening, we pride ourselves in training our staff, and not just training, sending staff to training sessions, but also having that training recorded in the company and shared with members of staff. So it's not just kept with that particular individual, but it is actually shared with the entire organization. We also realize that the situations are changing, and we continue to provide provide our clients with those services. Even if they don't reside inside, we try to get it for our clients by getting consultants to do work for us. In terms of promoting disciplined, results-based culture, as I said, our vision, our mission, our objectives, our entire strategy flows right down to the employees in terms of their KPIs. It is all measurable, it's all targeted to what we want to achieve as a company. And we also practice what we believe to be strong corporate social responsibility. We actually go out to schools. We also work with the Ministry of Social Development in terms of rural communities. We go out and not only try to get members of the community to sign up to our database, but we also do services like we share with them interview skills, writing of their resumes, dressing for success, and preparing themselves for the workplace.
One more question, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Lewis, the mandate of GHRS is to enhance human resource capacity throughout the public service. Based on the figures provided by your organization, it suggests that we are not doing that, in that we're providing it to 39% and 5%. The 5% has increased to 15%. I have not heard you identify within your strategic plan how you see you are going to address increasing those numbers throughout the public service. Is the subvention provided by government based on your service in the entire public service, or is it based on servicing a proportion of the public service?
We have no restrictions in terms of the ministries we can serve. So I'm assuming it's the entire public service. We have actually done quite a lot in terms of making a difference in the public service. As I said, through our direct marketing, we have actually gone out to all ministries, not only ministries, but the state enterprises. We have made efforts to find opportunities in the regional corporations, the borough corporations, the big House of Assembly. We have touched every, and not only that, I mean, organizations like the Hugh Wooden World School, we have done a lot of work, we have a lot of proposals in with these organizations. We don't just wait to get somebody coming to us. We go out and offer services. We may do a HR audit, for example, free of charge, in an effort to get business down the road. So it may seem that the subventions are for a limited number of successes, but you need to understand that we have touched all ministries, we have touched all state enterprises, borough corporations, regional health authorities. We have touched them.
Okay. Mr. Lewis, this committee and Trinidad and Tobago would like to be assured that the monies that have been spent are being well spent. And that is why you would find that I've been asking these questions. By your own submission, you would have indicated to the committee that the GHRS has only been servicing 39% of the public sector agencies and 5%, of the government agency and 5%. That has now increased to 15%. Somebody listening in is very likely to ask the question, why are we expending these sums if we are only servicing 39% and 15%? So I'm asking these questions so GHRS would have the opportunity to convince the committee and Trinidad and Tobago that the subventions that government would have been providing is money well spent. So that is why I've been asking these questions. So you now have the opportunity to convince this committee and Trinidad and Tobago that the subventions that have been provided by the government have been money well spent, and you are in fact enhancing the human resource capacity of the public service.
The Government Human Resource Services Company Limited works, and I'm not throwing the blame anywhere, but works in conjunction with the Ministry of Public Administration. We work in conjunction with, our mandate, our mandate is really to work in conjunction with. We have actually done major projects with that ministry, and we have more projects in the pipeline to do with that particular ministry in terms of transforming and building capacity within the public sector. What we have done in addition to that, and that is what we are going through a lot here today, is going outside of that, not just waiting on our partner, the Ministry of Public Administration, to provide us with opportunities to enhance. What we have done is we have actually tweaked our vision and our mission so that we can actually go out to other state enterprises and provide quality service. And not just quality service, but provide the services that we offer in terms of being a full recruitment agency, in terms of our training, in terms of our assessments. We've provided assessments for nurses. We have provided, we do not just recruitment, and I think we may be missing that aspect of what is happening today. As I say, we have also assisted the ministries in terms of providing, at very short notice, temporary clerical and secretarial relief to ministries. So we, in terms of dollars and cents, may not appear to be making much of a difference, but we are touching and reaching the ministry through our efforts. We continue to work with the Ministry of Public Administration to see where we can assist them in terms of their in terms of the development of the public sector in Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very warmly, Mr. Lewis. Mr. Lewis, let us remind ourselves, the mandate of this establishment is as follows, and I quote, to facilitate the enhancement of the human resource capacity in the public service of Trinidad and Tobago, recruit professionals, nationals and non-nationals from abroad and to fill skills gap, provide technical assistance and advice to ministries and departments in implementing human resource management policies, strategies, and agenda, develop guidelines for overseas recruitment, change management strategies, resettlement from overseas, establish headhunting database of Trinidad and Tobago, CARICOM, and other overseas nationals, and to disseminate information to enable overseas recruitment. Nowhere in that mandate can I find anything to do with telling children how to dress, important and laudable as that is in its independent state, and going to the law school to speak to law students and so on. And from what you have just said, I gather that you act as an employment agency. You recruit people for clerical positions and so on contract in the public service, having already established that you have no impact on recruitment in the establishment of the public service via the Public Service Commission. Now, you did say, and this is what brought me back to the point I'm now going to make, and I agree with my colleague, the minister, that you had an opportunity to explain to this committee and to the country the raison d'etre for your existence, your relevance. I come back now because you did tell us very proudly a moment ago that one of your focuses, or your focus is on keeping expenses reasonable. But you told us a while ago that you were in Port of Spain close to your market share. You had 9,000 square feet of land or property. You spent $45,000 a month. You went to Chaguanas. You now have about 10,000 square feet. You double the rent, 100,000 plus VAT. How, pray tell me how, especially in light of what my colleague has just said, and recognizing that you have little impact on recruitment through the Public Service Commission, we still have, according to your records, 5,366 vacancies for contract positions across the public service. Contract employment. You tell me how you can demonstrate that your movement from Port of Spain to Chaguanas, in what year? In 2013, on those terms, how could you square that with keeping expenses reasonable? When you have subventions, you're not making any profit. You're not convincing us to the future in terms of your strategic direction in respect of earning profit. Subventions in 2010 of 9 million. In 2011, 8.7 million. In 2012, 8.8. In 2013, 9.365 million. In 2014, 6.99 nothing million. And of course, in 2015, a revised estimate of $10 million, a total of 62.9 million over a 7-year period. How could you explain to this committee that that is keeping expenses reasonable? Tell me.
We have, it appears that it is, and it is a lot of money, but the company makes every effort, or made every effort to retool itself in 2013. We realized that as an organization, as an organization, we were not that relevance you speak about. And we decided at that point in time to relook at our strategic direction. So we have a new strategic direction based on, in terms of
But from what you told us, you sound as though you're looking around for petty jobs to do, things that are...
No. No.
You sound as though you're not focusing on your core mandate, but you're looking around for things to keep yourself busy. That's the impression I get.
No. Over that period, for example, we have done work with the Ministry of Public Administration in terms of their EBS, developing their EBS competency program to improve public servants using an EBS approach to their development. We have worked on the Deputy Permanent Secretary orientation. We have worked with EMPA in terms of the professional development program. We have worked with EMPA in terms of the setting up of the call center for shared information, Diamond Bus. There are a lot of non-recruitment activities that we have been involved in. It is because it is supporting the development of the human resource capacity of the public training, EBS competency development program, where members of the public service can improve their skills by not having to attend classes, but can improve it by doing programs online. We have worked that's the latest program we have just completed with EMPA. We have other programs that we have contracts for to complete. We have worked based on the direction of the Ministry of Public Administration. We cannot do it alone. And that is why we have gone out to look for other ways of making ourselves relevant, one, and for bringing income into the organization. I just need to correct you. When we said we went to the Heward Law School, it wasn't just talk to students. We are doing HR work with the organization. And when I speak about going to schools and communities, it's not just to, as you said, the laudable thing of teaching them to dress properly and stuff like that, but it's opportunities for us to enhance our database and get persons. We have a database currently of about over 57,000 persons on our system. And we have a system that once a ministry requests someone, we can quickly sift and get that. So it is not just a recruitment agency that sits back and waits for business. No, as I have explained, we have major projects that we have completed successfully with EMPA, and in an effort to not have to wait on revenue strictly from that, we have gone outside to try and achieve or to reduce our dependence on subventions, actually.
Mr. Lewis,
Sure.
I think that, the committee is grappling with attempting to appreciate and properly understand whether your functions that you conduct and execute do not constitute a duplication in many aspects within the public service and the public sector. And I'll tell you what I mean. As I understand it, and we have the permanent secretary here, public administration, training, a lot of money is allocated to each ministry every year for training. A block vote is given to public administration, I believe, because they have an agency or an academy that conducts training. Job evaluation is conducted by the personnel department, the chief personnel officer. They have allocations for these things. Recruitment is done by the Public Service Commission and by individual ministries. So we are trying to understand whether this agency remains relevant today, or whether you are duplicating the functions of other ministries. And we have a little possibility, the possibility exists that we may have resources being misallocated. So I am trying myself to understand the real responsibilities of the company, and whether you do not find yourself, duplicating functions that are carried out by other state agencies or ministries. You want to clarify for me? Because I'm having some difficulty myself.
We are also performed by ministries and also by the Ministry of Public Administration. We were set up to assist, to work in conjunction with. And that is what we do. We are ready and willing at all times to work with. When we are offered opportunities to work with the Ministry of Public Administration, we do that. As I said, we have had many programs over the 3 years that I have been there that we have done in conjunction with the what we have realized, as you quite rightly said, and as the board has told us recently, that we need to continue to make ourselves relevant. And we have, in terms of our change in the services that we offer. Recruitment was at one point in time our key driver, but that is no longer so. What we are doing is the building capacity should the need arise at EMPA for us, and EMPA is really the one who will guide, because we are here to support. I don't know if EMPA can add some light to that, but that is what we are here to do. And we have, sorry.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Not sure whether...
Yes, Chair, I was going to respond to Mr. Lewis here. When GHRS was set up initially, to be fair to the company, they did a lot of work. That was also the era when the human resource function in ministries and departments we were establishing. So that I myself was trained in competency-based training through GHRS. And they did a lot of training, and I myself have moved through many ministries, and they have had a presence there. So, as indicated earlier, HR departments are a little more mature at this stage. So, therefore, there's a shifting in the environment that has to be accounted for, so that Ministry of Public Administration as well and Communications would engage in wide-scale public service initiatives, and that is where the core of some of their responsibilities would have fallen. But it's really a shifting environment right now, and then with ministries and departments, as you indicated, having a training vote as well. And with ministries and departments also having to deal with the economic realities, then you will try at times to do in-house rather than using your little bit of training money, because it is small now as compared with previous times. So these are some of the prevailing circumstances which would have impacted GHRS. I just thought I would.
Thank you, Chairman. To what extent does the Ministry of Public Administration utilize the services of GHRS in the fulfillment of the objectives set out by the Ministry of Public Administration for the public service?
I can say that previously, I assumed in April, and previously from the records which I would have perused, they have done good business with GHRS over the years. However, we have to look at what is available to us now to spend in terms of recruitment or any other service which they would require. So it's not a matter of just, not using GHRs, but it's a bit of balancing that you have to do to ensure that you have funds to deal with it. As I said, it's more large-scale public service-wide entities, but if I have to do something within my organization, I have to look at the funding, and then I have to determine which is the most beneficial to the ministry in terms of my availability of funds, and also the resources which I have available inside to do that particular service.
2014, 2015, has the ministry utilized the services of GHRS?
Yes, we would have, yes.
And for what?
Honorable Chair, we have utilized GHRS for the e-competency-based training that was initially piloted. We have used a number of ministries was on the pilot to set up and deal with the e-competency-based training that Mr. Lewis would have spoken about, and that was done last fiscal. So we did start with that, and that was a process whereby we had to develop with the PSA and other agencies in terms of what was the training, what were the skills that the new public officer would require, and we had GHRS help us with that.
What accounts for the doubling of the staff at GHRS from 2013 to now?
Based on information we had from, in particular, our line ministry and the minister at the time, we were encouraged to increase our staff position, and that was because there were projects in the pipeline. We made changes to our staff structure, and at the time, 2012, 2013, the approved structure called for, I believe, 20 persons, based on information from, as I said, from the EMPA and the minister at the time. It was advised that we increase the staff complement, and we did a restructure of the organization, and that would have been in 2013. That would have been 2013, yes.
35?
Yeah, around 35, yes.
The recruitment that you did, in what areas?
Most of it would have been in the client services, which is the department that actually deals with our clients and customers. That moved from, I can give you the figures, that moved from about 6 persons to about 18 persons.
Is that customer service representatives you're speaking about?
No. These are human resource professionals and senior HR professionals.
Okay, just look at what, based on your report, you said took place during the last fiscal year. On page 16 of a document I'm reading from here. Clients served 49. Number of positions recommended fulfilling 759. These are positions recommended, that you recommended to your clients, but the persons were not actually recruited for these positions, yes? That's the end of your... Right. On page 16 of... Yes, please. Recruitment, assessment, and selection, 68. What does that figure represent? You were reading from this table earlier on. Summary of key aspects of service performance 2012 to 2015.
That is customers or?
Are you with me now?
Yes.
What does this figure 68 represent at recruitment, assessment, and selection?
That would have been
2014 to 2015.
projects. That would have been projects. That would be projects that we worked on. Projects for different ministries. Some of them would have been for the same ministry. Some of them, for example, EMPA may have given us 13 projects to recruit for them during that period. The Ministry of National Security, for example, may have given us projects to work on in terms of recruitment. Those are actually project numbers.
Okay. Training, design, and delivery, 39.
Again, projects.
Assessment centers, 3. What does that represent?
Are you going to take that, please?
Okay. These centers will represent projects undertaken for clients where they access to assess large numbers of participants or candidates for recruitment who are going forward in their recruitment process.
Let me give an example.
Yeah. So for example, it would be Ministry of Health. They will be looking to recruit 490 nurses for different programs, and we are undertaking that assessment for them as well.
So from 2013, I see that a new executive team came on board. Am I correct?
That's correct.
That's correct.
And at that point, the move to increase your office space and relocate out of Port of Spain to Chaguanas also took place around that time.
Yes.
And the decision to restructure and increase your staff also took place around that time.
That is correct.
And with that restructuring exercise, I'm expecting, or I expected, that we would see an improvement in the performance of the mandate. And that is where I have an issue. That if you restructured in 2013, you brought a new management team on board, you decided to move out of Port of Spain, double your rent and move to Chaguanas, you increase your staff, you double your staff from 17 to 35, and yet your client base remains fledgling. You have not been able to attract more than 20% of the ministries to do the work that you were established to do. So I have to ask the question, what is the relationship between the GHRS and the Ministry of Finance Assessment Division, Investment Division, sorry, in terms of the monitoring and oversight of the GHRS? You want?
To you, Chairman, what I can say is that when we review the strategic plan, we highlighted a lot of challenges for the Minister of Finance. And one of the challenges was that the company had a low penetration into potential customer base, that is the public service and state enterprise, as well as an increasing trend of a general downward trend with respect to revenue. What I'm trying to say is that we noticed that the revenue was falling, yet the expenses were increasing. And these reports on a yearly basis, when we get the financial statements, is made available to the Minister of Finance.
All right, before I ask Mr. Hines, I think Dr. Gopi Singh and then Mr. Hines.
Yeah, thank you. Madam Permanent Secretary, based on what you indicated that a while ago, that the ministries were now developing their own strength and skills in the HR department, and they were doing most of the training and so on for themselves. Bearing in mind that the ministries themselves are becoming more competent in the HR areas, do you see a relevance for the continuation of GHRS now, since they seem to be not penetrating the various ministries to give the ministries the support they need? And if so, what would the Ministry of Public Administration seek to do then to make them relevant if you want to keep them on? Because they seem to be irrelevant at the moment, as far as the public service is concerned.
I don't know if I can answer that, but what I can say is that ministries and departments are always building capacity. You are never finished. So it's a continuous process. How an organization such as GHRS can reinvent themselves to meet a change in circumstances, what is relevant to, I guess, to all of us. So that the issue of their being relevant or not, it depends on how they can change to meet a new circumstance, because we have the issue of our own ability to pay them, and finance would raise their financial concerns, but the issue is how will, because the company didn't get up today and decide to operate, so how policy shifts and how the company can reinvent themselves to meet the challenge will be what is really relevant. That's what I can say.
Would that be dependent on them or dependent on the Ministry of Public Administration? Because as far as I understand, and I feel my colleagues in the committee understand, that you are their client, and GHRS is responsible to the Ministry of Public Administration. So it depends on the executive of the Ministry of Public Administration to make them relevant or irrelevant. And it seems as though there is no nexus between the Ministry of Public Administration and GHRS. Well, if it is, it's a minimal nexus. And therefore, MPA, Ministry of Public Administration, seem to have left them on their own to fend for themselves rather than trying to give them some direction in helping you at public administration to solve the problems within the public service administration, which is sad at the moment in terms of the efficiency and the bureaucracy and the competence and the capability and so on that is within the public service, based on a number of factors, and one of which most predominant is the absence of thousands of personnel. So it's what would the Ministry of Public Administration do to help them or to make them relevant or irrelevant?
What I would say, Vice Chair, is that GHRS has a specific mandate, which also would limit, so they operate within certain parameters. And
their limit, based on what we said, that the mandate
yes,
is to help in the transformation of the public service.
Correct.
And the Ministry of Public Administration is the public service to help in the transformation. So if they are to help you in the transformation of the public service, and you are the ministry responsible for the public service administration and transformation, something is sad.
But they have been doing their
But to a minimal extent from what we have
but
gathered.
the public administration is but one ministry, Vice Chair, and there are many
No,
other
but you have the
ministries.
overall
Yes, but-
management of GHRS. That's your responsibility.
Not
to
the
help in-
management of GHRS.
No, not that. That's a limited liability company. But to effect the nexus between public administration, the public service competence, and GHRS standing as an organization, as a company willing to give you assistance, but underutilized.
All right, I recognize Mr. Hines.
I thank you very warmly again, Mr. Chairman. I am looking at your annual report, Mr. Lewis. I'm looking at your annual report, and before I say that, Madam Pierce, I took note of your very kind sentiment about thinking about making the thing, is it relevant, you said? How would it survive in this changing environment?
Reinvent.
Reinvention and so on. There are some occasions when reinvention may not provide a good and a useful solution. I just wanted to say that. However, Mr. Lewis, in your annual report of 2013 to September 30th, 2014, at page 9, I saw a very interesting statement here. And let me quote, under the rubric staffing, additional members of staff were needed primarily in the client services unit to adequately and proactively meet the needs of over 30 ministries. That is your declaration. At that time, you're correct. There were 33 ministries of government. And you made this statement against the background of the knowledge that historically and up to that time you were dealing with 5% of them, or 20%, sorry, meaning 6. But you declare here that you improved the staff to deal with over 30 ministries and more than 150 state agencies, which declaration could not, against the facts as subsisted at that time with a history, could not be easily said or should not be so whimsically and flippantly stated. This statement rings of an untruth. 1. 2, as I look in the financial statement for the year ended 2014, at page number 19, for the year 2014, the contract employment cost $4.124 million. Gratuity and severance to those persons to whom it would become payable, $639,532. Vacation expense, something that I know nothing of as a minister of government, $79,332. Cellular phone allowance, $44,856. I'm just looking at these figures. A grand total of $5.736 million. And as I flip over, all of that against the background of the things that we have established here this morning. And then when I go over to page 20, I see, and I'd like your explanation, at item 17, under the rubric related parties, key management personnel received compensation in the sum of $1.819 million, 2014. So we have doubled our staff. We have doubled our rent. We have lost business. We never moved from 20%. How, pray tell me, how is this justified? What are we to think?
At the end of fiscal 2013, GHRS was approached by our Ministry of Public Administration, and we were given at the time, it was agreed that we would handle, I believe it was 9 projects, which we were advised to ramp up for. We didn't just, and that was the point I was going to make to the member earlier, that it wasn't out of the air that we chose to restructure the organization.
You took advice. HR firm taking advice to restructure.
we had, when I say, anyway, we had 9 projects in place to handle for the Ministry of Public Administration.
What projects are those? Let me just ask aside.
Harry, do you have this project?
And where are they? What is the status of them now?
Okay.
No, let him finish and then you will come to that.
Actual names of the projects offhand. But it meant that we needed to build a capacity within the organization to handle those projects. We have so far completed 3 of those projects, and I believe 2 of the projects have been merged into another project. But at the time, at the end of 2013, that was the outlook. And the outlook at the time suggested to us that we needed to ramp up in terms of our capacity to handle those projects.
Who was the chairman of the board at that time?
Ms. Kokaram, I believe.
Or was it a certain Mr. Monroe?
No.
He was not the chairman at that time?
No. That was Ms. Kokaram. Mr. Monroe came in a year or 2 later.
These 9 projects, what were they and what is the status of those projects as we speak?
Okay, I can recall most of them. Most of them would have been 3 interventions as part of
This is a committee of the parliament. I don't want any guessing games here. This is recorded for all time. Could you make yourself certain as to what these projects are and what is the status, please? This is not a flippant or a guessing game. Whatever you say will be recorded and may be treated with in certain ways.
I understand.
Thank you very much. So let me venture again. What are these projects? And what is the status of each of them as we speak in committee here today?
Okay. I apologize. I don't have the names of each project at this point in time. I can tell you status of them, however. As Mr. Lewis said before, we've completed 3 of them, and 3 of them are, and the rest of them are remaining and pending completion of financing from our line ministry.
May I advise that if you don't remember those projects, could you submit those projects in writing? And would you be kind enough to give us a costing of those respective projects?
That we
Because we wouldn't want you to mislead the committee because you don't have the information at hand, but you can generate the information and have it sent to us. Similarly, I would like to ask the permanent secretary to provide us in writing with all the vacancies that exists in the public service, both permanent as well as contractual positions. I recognize Mr. Hines again.
I thank you very kindly for your intervention, Mr. Chairman, and I look forward to the response in writing. But let me, for the time being, elicit from Mr. Murray. Would it be correct, and Mr. Lewis, of course, would it be correct at this time to say that you ramped up for 9 projects, but 9 projects were not realized? Would that be a correct statement as we speak today?
We ramped up for 9 at the time, and based on the gold to diamond standard movement in terms of the public service transformation, we had 9 projects at that time, yes, and we ramped up for that purpose, yes.
You have answered 50% of my question. Let me put the other 50%.
Sure.
Would it be correct to say then that you did not realize those 9 projects having ramped up for 9?
That is correct.
That is correct. Thank you.
We said that earlier, thanks.
Yeah. May I, Mr. Lewis, also ask, there is a category called other contracted services. I would like to get some clarification on the selection process as it relates to other contracted services. Now, let me see if I could, there's a table 10 in your submission that dealt with selection process for other contracted services. I don't have the exact page in terms of your submission, but table 10. Now, you spoke about, in one column, you talk about providers. And one is like Orbit Solutions Limited, 3D, KPMG, Caribbean Jobs, Digital Business, and you went on. And when it dealt with the selection method, there was selective tender for one, then a request for quotation, then there was sole select, then there was request quotation, then again request quotation. I wanted to ask whether these methods were in keeping with the manual that dealt with state enterprises performance, or whether it doesn't ring properly in my ears, and that is why I'm seeking some clarification. Many of these other contracted services were sole select. Many of them were based on requests for quotation. I don't know what that means, quite frankly. If, for instance, someone came to you and said, well, look, I can provide this particular service, and you said, well, look, could you give me a quotation? I'm not too clear what this means, really. But maybe you can clear up for the committee, Mr. Lewis, exactly what these methods entail. Selective tender, request quotation. I understand public tender. You're keeping within the arrangement of the manual. We're looking for about 3 quotes. But give us an explanation for the rest.
Okay, Chair. Request for quotation, we sent out, it would have been a requisition that would have gone out to suppliers, and we would have received at least 3 quotes from suppliers. And a decision was taken based on what was received from the vendors. In the case of sole select, I know this was before my time, but I know at the time Caribbean Jobs had the largest reach in terms of not only in Trinidad and Tobago, but outside of Trinidad and Tobago in terms of jobs. So I know that is why that vendor was chosen to advertise jobs locally and internationally. And again, sole select, Ministry of Transport, they provided us with basically free services. I mean, it was almost free, and that was basically to move our offices. The public tender is what it is, and as I said, mix of interview and sole. I'm not sure what is a mix of interview and sole select. I don't know if I will just, if I may just ask one question. If it is okay, I can please provide that information in writing. But I can tell you, as I said, the others are what they are.
Yeah, there's another area I'd like to get clarified before I ask my colleagues to come in for final clarifications. Consultancy sourcing, that deals with for the period 2013 to 2014. I have before me where in 2013, consultancy sourcing amounted to 3.5 million, and in 2014 it was $199,749. Could you indicate to this committee what was the consultancy sourcing utilized for in 2013, and why was consultancy sourcing utilized in 2013?
Sorry, Chair.
Yes.
What that was a call service for the Ministry of National Security machine-readable passports, which commenced in 2006 and ended in October of 2014. And what would happen in that situation is that we were contracted to basically to pay for these services. So the company called One Service would bill us, and we would pass the bill on to the Ministry of National Security, who would then pay that bill. It was a book-in, book-out system. So there was no actual revenue or anything like that for GHRS. So the revenue, it came in, and cost of sales, it went out in terms of cost of sales.
But why was this necessary, book in, book out? Why you couldn't deal with it yourselves? Or why couldn't the agency in question who was finally paid whatever sum of money couldn't deal directly with the Ministry of National Security?
Chair,
We don't understand what
Chair, I
they're doing.
cannot answer that, but I know that when a decision was taken by the board in 2013, in August of 2013, to put an end to that arrangement.
That's how the company was selected. Is this company that got the job eventually to provide services to the passport office or the immigration office? How was this company selected? Was it a sole selective tender? Was it a mix of sole select? I'm not too sure.
I cannot say.
Could you put
Chair.
that in writing for us, because we would need that?
Yes, sure. I can get that
Any
information.
member would like to raise a final, because it's 12:16, I would like to wrap up.
This would be short. This for the new chairman of the board, which you indicated you started in February, but got your instrument in March. The strategic plan 2014 to 2017, are you aware of it? And you mentioned a plethora of challenges that the company is experiencing, namely general downward trend with respect to revenue, increasing dependency on government subvention to meet core expenses, low penetration into the public service and state enterprises, insufficient awareness within the public sector of GHRS and its service offerings, an important weak organizational brand. This is not the time that you'll probably be able, but you may want to make a few comments. What measures would GHRS put in place or have put in place, this is 2014 to 2017, to address those challenges that I mentioned? Some of those, they're all listed on page 12 of your response, summary of responses to this committee. And how many of these issues are being dealt with and have been resolved? If you want to answer a few of that now, and perhaps you can submit some of those answers subsequently.
Yeah, Mr. Lewis, you may wish to give us a summary, or the chairperson, and then submit in writing the rest for the committee's consideration. So I don't know if the chairperson will want to give us a tight summary. It is page 9 of your response, right?
Page 12.
Oh, page 12. Yeah, it is page 9 of your response to us. So, Madam Chair, you may want to give us a tight summary and then put pen to paper and generate a response later on.
Thank you, Chair. In response, the newly appointed board has undertaken and is actually in the process of undertaking a review of the existing Strategic Plan 2014-2017 to examine its applicability to the mandate. The board recognizes in the conduct of this review that the GHRS is pervasively faced with two challenges: one, its relevance, and two, weakened revenue growth. It is recognized that the GHRS is terminally known as a recruitment agency, and I use the term terminally because the recruitment product line is a declining one, it is evident, as well as the low market penetration for this recruitment line makes the GHRS non-competitive at this time in that market, because the ministries and state agencies to which the GHRS has been established to service is not barred from using their internal capacity, as well as using other businesses to provide such professional services. It is the thrust then of the board to focus on this relevance and revenue generation, but more so the relevance as it relates to the mandate. And so a recalibration of the strategic plan is what is seen as necessary at this point. The strategic plan developed may have been relevant to the time of its development in 2014. However, the strategic plan as it is was one developed by the GHRS, but the GHRS is not an entity that was established to operate independently. It is one that is under the aegis of the Ministry of Public Admin to support the public admin, to support the Ministry of Public Administration, to transform public sector. And that is the focus of the board at this point in time, to work with the Ministry of Public Administration to create, in essence, it is still in development and a written submission will be provided, but to work with the Ministry of Public Administration to develop a plan at that level that is collaborative, whereby the GHRS can adequately support transformation in that regard and not attempt revenue generation on its own, because that is not the purpose of the entity. So the discussions at this meeting are well noted and are consistent with board deliberations at this point. And this is the strategic direction that the board is taking with regard to the entity, its relevance, its sustainability, and any longevity. But it is really to align itself better to support the Ministry of Public Administration initiatives to service the government of Trinidad and Tobago and to meet that mandate. Thank you.
Candor demands of me that I place on the record that my consternation and perplexity that I experienced for the last hour and a half or so has morphed into a feeling of comfort, Madam Chair. Having heard you, I look forward to the future with healthier anticipation. Thank you.
Remember.
Develop a very powerful conclusion as it relates to the future direction, Madam Chair. I would want to ask if you can generate that perspective for the committee's consideration in writing, so that we can get the benefit of the recommendations as well as possible solutions, the direction of this company for the future. So if you could probably, within the next, let's say, week and a half, submit to us in writing your thinking, your thoughts on the way forward to make this organization more relevant as we get into, the future. I'd appreciate that very much on behalf of the committee. But in winding down our experience here today, I want to give you the final say as we close any final thoughts you may wish to share with this committee and the general population before we close? Madam Chair.
At this point, thank you, Chairman, for the opportunity to close in this regard. The GHRS, at its genesis, was relevant. The mandate today remains relevant. There is some recalibration necessary, and the board, though new, though small, is prepared to work with the stakeholders to ensure that the GHRS delivers and adds value to the value proposition as proposed by the government. And this is our commitment. And I trust that we will deliver within reasonable time frame certain results as expected of the general public and the stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. May I, on behalf of the committee, extend to all of you our profound thanks to the officials from the Government Human Resource Services Company Limited, to the Permanent Secretary Acting of Public Administration, to the members of the Investments Division, Ministry of Finance, who have been here with us, to members of the media who attended, to members of the public, to the viewing public and the listening public. May I, on behalf of the committee, record our profound appreciation and thanks for your participation and involvement during these proceedings. At this time, this meeting stands suspended, and we'll again record our appreciation and thanks to the official. Thank you very much.